Hello, I'm Ryan McEachern, and welcome to episode 35 of The Dig. On this week's episode, I'm very pleased to have our guest, Carl Weatherell, Executive Director and CEO of the Canadian Mining Innovation Council, the national association focused on the innovation in mining. They are working on some really interesting projects that will transform mining as we know it. And these projects are also great collaborative opportunities for mining suppliers who hold key pieces to the solutions sought after CMIC consortiums. And we'll finish things off with our popular 6 and 60. So let's get to it. The Government of Canada has recently embraced the concept of net zero in terms of their climate change mandate. It's a concept that is very well known by our guest, Carl Weatherell, who is at the helm of the Canadian Mining Innovation Council. The organization years ago had an ambitious goal. Through industry-led initiatives, they would engage in transformative projects that would move the mining industry towards zero-waste mining, specifically reductions in energy and water intensity and the environmental footprint. Fast forward to today, and CMIC continues to evolve and grow with a new rebranding called ReThink Mining. Let's dig in now with our friend Carl Weatherell. Hey, Carl, welcome to The Dig. This has been a long time coming for us to get you on the show.
Awesome. Thanks, Ryan. Really glad to be here. It's going to be an awesome conversation.
Yeah. So before we get into kind of what you guys are doing in that, you just recently came out with kind of a rebrand or some sort of refresh, Rethink Mining. What's the story behind all that?
So it's interesting. As you know, Ryan, CMIC's been around for quite a while, and people know us as CMIC or the Canada Mining Innovation Council. And we ran into some challenges there because, people from outside of Canada would go, oh, you're from Canada, we can't work with you. Council sounds like government. CMIC, you sound like other organizations. There's so many organizations around with C's in them. There was a disconnect, and people just didn't really understand who we were, what we did, couldn't work with us. And also it didn't really tell people what we did. There was some confusion about what we did. So we reflected back on, okay, what do we do? How do we do it? And came up with the whole idea of rethink, because that basically tells a story of how CMIC is challenging the paradigms of the business, trying to get people to work together differently, and this includes miners and suppliers, et cetera, do things differently. And it's actually taken off. It's really good, and you and some of your members have subscribed, and we're starting to work more closely with some of it. It's been absolutely fabulous.
Yeah, excellent. And I think a real key part too, it's industry led, and what really is a good fit here is, we kind of represent a bit of the mining supply and services sector,
Yeah.
and you're really kind of on the more from the industry, from the miner side, right?
Well, and that's an important piece is the driver behind us. Primarily, it's the mining companies, right? It's mining companies that are driving our business, that are giving us direction where to go. But we do work with other organizations, and I should say that now, since we've done this rebrand, we're getting more traction internationally instead of just Canada. We're getting more multinational companies as well, and more suppliers coming to the table. So it's been working really well. The other side of this, of course, is how we work with other organizations. So, we create strategic partnerships with those organizations that are actually going to help us drive and get to this rethink and this transformation of mining. And that's the type of arrangement we've had with MSTA for a couple of years, and others.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about, it's kind of come up in recent times, well, for some of us a lot longer, but there's been this dialogue since the government came out recently in December with a net zero part. So with regards to net zero dialogue, you guys have you've been living this kind of theme for years now with towards zero waste mining. So, from your standpoint, where are you guys coming from on all this?
So that's an interesting question, and it's nice to see this coming up now, because back in 2014, mining companies and governments and others said, oh, what do you do? What do you hang your hat on? What's one thing that resonates and suggests what CMIC is all about? So we put together a group of senior executives from across Canada, put them in a room to look at what's common between all of us. What are the connectors between every single mining company? And we landed on the idea of water, energy, and environmental footprint. So it actually came out of these discussions, and we leaned on the zero piece and came up with zero because zero harm, right? The industry's hoping to get to zero harm. no accidents. We're not quite there, but we're close. And it resonates with the entire industry. So we leaned on the zero harm piece. And speaking with the Mining Association of Canada, for example, towards zero, right? So can we put these things together and acknowledge the fact that, we produce tailings, that we discharge water, so the waste theme. So the whole idea of towards zero waste is, let's try and achieve something that that's impacting the entire industry, number one. Number two is, how can we also break down the barriers and the silos between the pieces of the business? So from exploration to mining to processing to discharge, what are the connectors? And also, how can we actually relate to non-mining companies? This is a complaint from miners all the time. Nobody understands this, but if you take a look at it, energy, water, environmental footprint are basically 3 of the top 10 issues facing all of humanity. So the idea of zero waste mining, focused on energy, water, environmental footprint came out of those discussions, and that idea of, let's target something bigger, let's resonate with the zero harm, and resonate outside of the business of mining and integrate across the operations. And that's basically where it came from.
And you guys created some pretty aggressive targets too, kind of before people were even talking about say the climate change 2050. You were coming out with some targets that were pretty aggressive.
Yeah, the whole idea of zero, and we're saying by 2027, can we get technologies deployed and or developed that would reduce energy use, water use, or environmental footprint by 50% by 2027? That's 6 years away. Is it feasible? Possibly, but it's a tough target, because the whole idea about transformation is about striving for something bigger than yourself, and that's what we have to do. It's an impossible target. Let's at least try and get there. It's like resetting your baseline.
Right.
And the way we do this, actually, it's not that difficult in some respects, because if you look at the industry and say, for example, mining and processing, right? So let's take a look at the platform technologies and processes that consume the most energy, produce the most water, or produce tailings. And if you really examine that, you can focus in on mineral processing and underground and surface mining. If you want to get rid of tailings, it's about underground and surface mining operations. If you want to reduce energy, you have to couple that with the activities of the mill on surface. And there's a whole systems integration piece here. But by focusing on those platforms, you can very quickly identify some of the areas that need to be tackled to actually try and hit these targets. And we've got a number of consortia in place that are doing exactly that.
Wow. Okay. And before we kind of get into some specifics of that, because behind this kind of these goals, you create a whole roadmap early on about how you're going to achieve these things, and you've created some pretty interesting projects. Is that?
Yeah, so what we did to get started, to get this alignment, right? We have a bunch of senior executives that say zero waste mining, right? Everybody agrees to it, but then you have to filter it down. So to get alignment with the industry and across the supply chain is we hosted many meetings to actually create roadmaps for exploration. Our exploration roadmap was actually done in 2012. We have roadmaps for underground mining that was completed in 2014, I believe it was. Roadmap for surface mining, roadmap for processing, a roadmap for environment. And those provide the framework for, if you want to go from here to there, that's the pathway. And also, if you want to align the individual companies, within the companies, amongst the companies in the supply chain, this provides a good tool for alignment. And since we've created those, we've had a number of mining companies are using those as a baseline to create their own internal roadmaps, number one. Others are using them to say, oh, you're working on this too? Can we talk about how we can collaborate? We've even had some suppliers in academia use them as a background for some of the work they're doing. So it's really helped to get some focus and provide some alignment. And then again, part of this too, and this is a really important piece on the approach and the projects and the road mapping, and it comes back to the whole question right at the start about rethink, is challenging the paradigms of the business on what we need to tackle, but also how, and really importantly is who, right? Is who do we actually need to collaborate with? It's not, gold needs to collaborate with gold. It's gold can actually learn something from oil and gas or base metals. And we're breaking down those silos of what, how, and who, which is really exciting. We're seeing a lot of uptake. And it's nice people are jumping on the zero wagon. A little different, but jumping on it, which is great.
Right. Now let's take this from a a small medium-sized enterprise perspective, right? A lot of our members are of that come from the milk, if you will. So what is your approach for letting them kind of participate in this? How do you do this?
There's a couple of different ways, and it depends on the project, because we do projects that are technology development and technology deployment. So it depends on the type of project. So and again, the first thing we do once we have the roadmaps, we do the strategy sessions with the mining companies, we identify what problem they want to solve or what technology they want to deploy or whatever it is. And then depending on what that project is, we'll go and reach out or do technology scans or reach out to people like yourself and say, this is what we're looking for. Do any of your members fit? We did 2 open calls recently looking for sensor technology, saying, do you know anybody that does this sort of thing within Canada and outside of Canada? So we'll do that, just what exists on the technology side, but also on some of the development, deployment, engineering, design side of things as well. So we actually have a couple of MSTA members involved in our projects from the engineering side of things, providing engineering advice. So it depends on the project, and we'll typically reach out to organizations like yourself or you directly, but also a key piece of what we're looking for those companies and organizations that really understand what we're trying to do. This isn't about selling a widget. This is about, we're trying to change the industry. So we want to be a part of that, number one. And B, there's got to be skin in the game, right? So this isn't typically a buy-sell transaction, but rather, do you want to be a part of a project that will co-create new technology that will radically change the industry? You're in the front lines and your company can benefit from that. The whole idea of platforms, you build the platform and then you take it away, add value to it, and you've got potentially new business offerings. So it all depends on the project, but we're always looking for interesting companies. And another way we work with SMEs sometimes is also if there's a technology that, say one of your members has that's really cool, it's being developed, and you'll bring it to us, we'll take a look at it and say, hey, that fits with the roadmaps, the industry's looking for this, and we'll sometimes push it out to the company, say, do you have any interest in this? We actually had one just this morning on a new technology, and the company said, yes, we're interested, let's have a chat. And we've got a second one this afternoon. So we'll do that as well. So it's not just about our projects and it's about our roadmaps, but not just our projects, but what the industry needs, and anywhere in their business. So we do it a couple of different ways. It's not a cookie cutter, fill out the form, show up, and we'll figure out if you fit. Right. It's let's have a dialogue and see how we can potentially work together.
So okay, that's really interesting in the approach. And so I'm trying to think now, what do you have in the hopper right now? You mentioned one, you're looking for sensor companies with sensor technology. Maybe we can dive into that one specifically. Like, what are you talking about in terms of sensors?
So ore sorting has been around for decades, right? There's companies that have been around 30, 40 years on ore sorting, but it hasn't had the impact in the industry that you would think it has had. There's been challenges, recognizing the value for individual companies, whether it's precious metals, base metals, or oil and gas. So we put together a consortium to actually dive into this more and find out what are the common issues here, and can we accelerate this transition into using sensor-based ore sorting so you actually get a lot of value. And the key piece of this too is if you're looking at zero tailings, underground ore sorting and waste diversion is a key component of that. Mechanical rock cutting to ore sorting, and once you get that, then you can tackle the zero tailings challenge much easier, and water and energy at the same time.
Right.
And I'll come back to that in a second. So there's a number of pieces. We're in the first phase of this project, and the first phase is basically understanding and getting a better sense of where the companies are, what the challenges are. And then in about 4 weeks, we'll have an idea of where they want to go next in terms of projects. And one of the pieces is, are there companies out there that have sensor technology that we're not aware of, or they're developing sensor technology that could potentially be put into some of these existing technology companies? And what are some of the existing companies doing? And are they interested in talking to us about this co-development approach? Because we've got 9 mining companies saying this is what we need,
Right.
and some of the younger SMEs are listening to that and going, yeah, this is cool. Come back to us and have a discussion. So there's just on the sensor piece, that's what we're looking for. There are other pieces coming out on the engineering and other side, other pieces that are probably going to have different needs. So there's a few pieces there. But that's just one example.
Right.
And we've already had discussions. We call it confront and challenge. So with suppliers, sometimes I'm trying to sell you this widget. Well, actually, it doesn't work. Tell us why not. What's your roadmap? Are you willing to work with us? And as I said, we see some people pivoting. So it's typically the SMEs are willing to pivot.
Okay.
So that's one example.
Right. So okay. And what else would there be in the mix right now? What else are you looking for?
So there's a couple of pieces here. One, and I'll just dive into this for a second. So if you look at the sensor-based ore sorting, to really enable that, you need to move from drill and blast to mechanical cutting, because mechanical cutting will produce material at the right size that makes it more amenable to ore sorting, right? And we've got a couple of consortia related to mechanical cutting on the go right now. So the only ones in the world. The ore sorting is the only one in the world as well. And if you put these two pieces together and you divert waste, then when your tailings, your material that goes to surface is half. Therefore, your energy mix on surface and your water use and everything else is going to drastically reduce. That's what we're trying to do, is look at this integrated approach. So mechanical cutting, sensor-based ore sorting. The other piece that's really important, Ryan, is that you can't just go from drill and blast to fully continuous mining. That leap is a little tough. So we need to do some projects that are in between there, like kind of intermittent, that are going to be a step towards that. So a project we just recently started is called Safe Deep Development, which is the existing underground operations that are going to remove people from the face totally and eventually go to full autonomy on the ground. Right. And a bunch of pieces wrapped around that. Now it's in its infancy, but there will be some needs for technology companies and suppliers to be involved in that. So again, changing the whole paradigm underground. There's a couple of new projects that are just being developed now underground. On surface, key piece on surface is the same idea, continuous surface mining. Ore sorting fits with that very, very closely. A project we have underway right now is alternative haulage. So haul trucks, the big 300-ton haul trucks are massive CapEx, OpEx, GHG, all this sort of stuff. And we've got a project to look at alternatives to that. We looked at things such as Hyperloop and maglev trains. Are there other technologies out there that can be integrated into the existing business, right, or replace it in the future, and reduce OpEx, reduce CapEx, reduce GHGs, get to the zero in some shape or form, and change the dynamics of the business, and including even how we model this. Like, right, we're not looking at CapEx and OpEx, we're looking at the whole spectrum of what's the impact on GHGs, environmental impact, sustainability. It's a holistic sort of approach. So in the surface mining, we're looking at that, and electrification autonomy as well. So there's a couple of potentials there. And the last piece is on the technology development side of things. So our focus there is new technologies for processing. So people know that ball mills are highly inefficient and consume most of the energy in the surface. Can you replace those? So we asked that question. We did technology scan, and we have a couple of projects on the go right now. And actually, we have 2 MSTA members involved in them, from the engineering side and the product side both, which is really cool. Yeah. Because they get it, right? And it's been amazing to work with them. But the whole idea is we're developing, fabricating new technology and actually prototyping it at partner organizations to prove that you can reduce the energy by up to 4-fold. We couldn't do it without the engineering design support, without the instrumentation support that some of your members have provided. Right. And we have some microwave work, looking at microwave technology, potentially sorting as well. And again, this one project, there's 22 people around it. Wow. That are all putting stuff into putting their time and their effort and their intellect and knowledge to try and drive change in the industry. It's really, really cool. There's a bunch of nascent things that are percolating right now. We're not ready to not ready to go out yet because we haven't defined it with our members. We need them to be on board first. But as you know, Ryan, we reach out to you and to other people saying, you know, folks in this space, and we go from there. So a lot of exciting things going on.
Right. So if somebody's listening or watching us today or right now, how would they get in touch with you, Carl?
You know, our website, ReThink Mining, there's email up there. I mean, you know, you Google me, I show up as Carl at CMIC.org. It's not hard to find us. Just come to us directly, come through you if necessary, or somebody else.
Yeah.
So that's the easiest thing to do.
Right. Well, it's again, it's been a long time coming to have you on the show, Carl. I know we could go on for hours about this because I think we have in the past. So, but I really appreciate you being on the dig, and so thanks for being here.
No, thanks, Ryan. It's been a pleasure.
Now it's time for 6 and 60. Let's take a look at the biggest stories affecting the mining industry today. The Australian government has called for new mineral markets amid concerns about Chinese dominance over mineral supply chains. U.S. officials are making similar strides to address China mining's footprint and urge battery metal producers to expand into Canada. S&P Global's Exploration Activity Index in February hit an 8-year high, due mainly from junior and intermediate companies raising just under $2 billion US. Schlumberger said its new energy unit is developing a lithium extraction plant in Nevada, with operations to begin by the end of this year. Barrick and Newmont are reviewing their Nevada operations joint venture to focus on new discoveries. And finally, New Gold acquired a 14.9% stake in Heart Gold, which operates the Sugar Zone mine in Ontario. And that is your 6 and 60. That's it for this week's show. I'd like to thank our guest, Carl Weatherell. Follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter at Mining Suppliers. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel to get instant access to the latest episode and past episodes of The Dig. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, I'm Ryan McEachern. Take care and stay safe.